Welcome to the Gabe Gallucci Golf Show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of the Gabe Gallucci Golf Show. I'm your host, Gabe Gallucci, with my boy, Dave. Back in action. Here we go, episode 4. What's up, brother?
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Gabe, how was your week?
Buddy, I'm buzzing right now. I'm not going to lie. I'm coming off a range session. I actually had a great day of practice. It's been actually
Nice.
a lot of consecutive good days of practice. But I'm like extra buzzing today. Because like it's
You've been posting a lot of content lately.
Yeah, well, you know what? So excited. I launched my -6 challenge this week. So that's one of the things that, one of my New Year's goals that we talked about on last week's episode when, setting the goals and all that is obviously I'm trying to get to a +6, and that's what's going to get me to my pro level, right? So in order to do that, I've trying to devise a way to make my practice a little more impactful. And so I came up with this challenge of having to shoot 6 under through the first 12 holes at Cultus, which is where I practice. And it's like 6 par 4s, 5 par 3s, and 1 par 5. And I feel like, it forces me to hit all the shots. And I really like that, I have to, there's some easy par 4s, but then there's also some difficult ones. And then, some easy par 3s and some harder ones. And so I feel like, to get to that level, if I can shoot 6 under through those 12, I'll be like well on my way to where I want to be. And so I launched that video this week, and I've already got a bunch filmed already. So they're going to just be rolling out, and got my cricket shoes video, which I'm really excited about to kind of give people more of an in-depth look at why I use cricket shoes. So I'm really excited about that. And then,
Nice.
it's been great. But just
Anyone
overall,
that doesn't,
the swing is just unreal right now. Sorry to cut you off. I'm so excited with just like
Nice.
starting the new year. Like I said, I'm buzzing. It was a good range day. How are you though,
Excellent.
Dave? How are you?
I'm doing great. I got to the range yesterday, hit some balls. Didn't go as badly as it could have. Didn't go great. Couple things to work on, but it ended far better than it started. So let's just leave it like that. So I was happy overall. I didn't leave trunk slamming, so that's always a good sound.
Nice.
And
Are you guys getting that like horrible stretch of weather down in Seattle that we're about to get up here?
We've been pretty good. You guys, I've been talking to my parents. They still live on Vancouver Island. You guys have had more rain. It's funny, just 3 hours north. You guys are getting a lot more rain than we are lately. So
Well, and we've
it's been pretty good down here.
It's going to be -14 on Friday.
Nice. That's
Celsius.
That's spicy.
Celsius it's going to be cold.
I'm going to be in Nashville on Friday, so
Ooh.
I will message you. Hopefully the weather's going to be nicer there.
Oh, please go get a Hattie B's chicken sandwich for me, please. I know that doesn't really fit into the 2020 the dry January health goals that we talked about. But I missed that sandwich.
This is not a food podcast, but Hattie B's is pretty good. But have you ever had the peg leg porker?
No, I didn't have it when I was there.
When we go to Nashville, that's where we're going.
Peg
first
leg
stop.
porker, interesting.
Yeah. So anyway,
Slaps.
anyone that doesn't, so you were talking about your -6 challenge. Anyone that doesn't follow Gabe on YouTube, I recommend you please do it. I've watched the video. It was good. You had some really good camera angles on that video too. So follow him, like the video. Let's get that viewership up on YouTube for our friend Gabe here.
Thanks for the tire pump.
And I do what I can, buddy. But before we get too far,
All right.
I have to give you a little bit of a hard time.
I know. Here we go.
So we are 4 episodes into this podcast.
Yeah.
And you have set the story that equipment changes are commonplace in my life. And they are.
Yes.
But we have had our first bag alert in 2024.
Bag alert.
And it is not coming from insert sound here. The first bag alert is not coming from my bag. It's coming from yours.
I know.
You've had a change.
Well, so because of doing this -6 challenge, and so now it's forcing me to become more militant. And first of all, I don't know if this gets a full what's in the bag like sirens and fireworks that I think you like to set off. But maybe this gets like this is like a little, like just a little firework, But one of the things I noticed is on a couple of the holes, specifically the par 5, I have to hit this like slinging almost low hook. And so I found that with the new Ping G430 hybrid, I just can't sling it as much as I could sling the old one. And especially trying to keep it low. Like it actually gets in the air a little too easy. And I don't have a problem getting it in the air. So I decided to go back to the 425 hybrid, and that's been the bag change. So I'm like, I don't know if that's as controversial as like a Dave change, you know?
Now, one of the things, do you think, so I was, after you told me that, and I went and did a little bit of research after you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Ping tried to do with the 430 was neutral out the flight. So do you think that it's some internal weighting on the 425 that allows you to turn it over easier? Or like what is it about that club that allows you to hit that draw?
The 425 feels like a sledgehammer compared to the 430. The 430 feels like just lighter. And like if you need to hit it high, like if I was to if I was doing this challenge on a course where I had a really high approach into a green on a par 5, probably the 430 is the play. But because I have to hit these like low bullets out there, specifically on hole 4, which is the par 4, it is the tightest par 4 in Canada, I'm convinced. 28 yards wide and like 340 or 370 from the back. I have to basically hit this line drive hybrid out there is the safest play to kind of put it in play consistently, right? And I just found that the 430, it's just going too high, which works on that hole. That's fine. But when I want to sling it on hole number 6, I can't really sling it. And I need to turn that over, especially because it's wet right now. I'm not going to get as much rollout. So there's that. Now I did go full degenerate, and I also switched the 3-wood back to the 425.
This is news to me.
I saved that one. I saved that one
now,
for just for you.
Did I also notice in a video there's a golf ball change?
Yes, there is a golf ball change. I've been playing. I went back to the BXS.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not sure if it's the cold, because the problem I find with like a Pro V1X, the left dash, or anything, when it starts to get below 10 degrees Celsius, the ball feels like a rock. And especially with putting, it just like my Cleveland putter, it's not a very expensive putter, right? So the feel of that putter is not exactly the most world class of feels, right? And
we'll take a break here. I do want to say for all of our American viewers that 10 Celsius equates to about 50 Fahrenheit. Just for a little bit of comparison.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And all you softies in Arizona who wear toques when it's like 12 degrees. So what is that? 50. So yeah, when it's 50 degrees and you guys are wearing toques and you're complaining because you're golfing in Arizona, get off my lawn. Okay. We're out here not even wearing sweaters golfing in 2 degrees today.
So the official, again, they call them beanies down here, Gabe, but we'll let that go. So the official beanie / toque weather is 50 degrees.
Well, I don't know. I see these guys in Arizona who it's like 13 degrees Celsius when I look at, and they're complaining and they're like all bundled up and they're like, oh, it's so cold. Can't golf today. It's like, I'm like, today was 2 degrees Celsius when I was playing. And
so try, yeah.
And I don't even know what that is Fahrenheit, but was it 30 Fahrenheit is 0?
32.
Okay. So yeah. So let's say, so I'm playing at 35 Fahrenheit without a sweater. Let's go. Canadian boy. But that's the thing. So I went back to the BXS, and I've always liked that ball. Like the reason why I kind of got married to the TP5Xs is just because it worked, and I miraculously just kept getting hole-in-ones with it. But my under par journey that I did in 2020, I finished that off playing exclusively the BXS towards the end, and that's what I shot my first round under par with. So it's a great ball.
That was the most subtle brag I've ever heard someone do. I just play the TB5X because I make hole-in-ones. Just hole-in-ones.
Well, I was kind of like,
what are you gonna do?
I was listen, I was testing all these different balls, right? Because I was constantly trying out different balls to see which ones worked, and then every time I would go back to the TP5X, within a certain range of using it, I'd get a hole-in-one. And then I've never gotten another hole-in-one with any other ball. Now, not that I'm a hole-in-one factory. I only have 3. But I'm just saying there's just this coincidence. So then I started, I like the juju, right? If it's good juju, why mess with it? But I am finding in the winter specifically, those like firmer balls, it's just like, it feels like a sledgehammer off my putter.
Right.
It's just too much of a brick. And my putting, as you'll see in some of the upcoming videos, like the putting's great. Like very, very pleased with how that's going. So off season's off to a good start. No complaints. And we're sticking to our New Year. We're sticking to our New Year's goals. We've got our Stanley. We're crushing the water, and we're up. We're up 3 pounds already. My goal of 180 pounds. We're up 3 pounds.
Nice.
Smashing the creatine. We're getting all the meals in every day. I like again. We'll see how quickly I can get to 180, but I got to be able to sustain it, and it's got to be. Right now it's probably a mix of water weight and the added carbs and all that. So, goal is by the end of the year to be like 180, cruising.
Nice.
Yeah, feeling it.
All right. There you have it, folks. Tune in next week for episode 5 when we get Gabe's next bag change.
Nah, we're chilling for now. Like I said, it's a light alert. It's not a Dave full siren alert that we get, And like, is it really a bag alert if I didn't spend any money?
2 clubs. I have the feeling if I swapped that Scotty Cameron putter out for my old PXG, it would be big news for you.
It's less of no, because you didn't have to spend any money to make the change. The difference is like, if there's no cost incurred, I feel like that's okay. It just means you're rotating things that are in the timeout closet, right? Versus like a full sale.
How's that
degenerate
bag piece working for you?
How's that what? Sorry?
How's that bag piece working for you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it is what it is.
All right.
It is what it is, sir. Shall we jump into the Q&A for this week? We did. We got a bunch of questions from all you guys. Thank you so much for submitting them between Instagram and YouTube. And so we've got them all here. And Dave's going to read them off, and then we're going to kind of chop through them.
Sounds good. And listen, if we don't get to your question, stay tuned. We'll be doing this again. So we'll keep a running tab of what comes in and keep sending those questions in, and we'll get to them if we don't get them today. So
let's do it.
All right. First question, Gabe. So Cranklin wants to know.
Crankin, my boy Crankin. The homie Crankin.
Guys.
I actually don't know who Crankin is, but Crankin is one of the most loyal people on the YouTube channel, always commenting, always throwing good vibes out there. So I gotta shout out to the homie Crankin.
Nice. Well, he's asking for some info about your tournament results from 2023, your plans for tournaments in 2024, and what you think the current state of your game is versus your +6 goal.
So, tournaments in 2023, I played 2 events. Yeah, well, actually, no, that's a lie. Played 3 events because I played 2 summer events and 1 winter event. They weren't great. I didn't shoot great scores in either one of them. But the purpose of those was to learn and to learn how to swing with full intent in tournaments. I have a big problem of having like a swing I was playing with and then a tournament swing that would show up that would be shorter and that would have 0 lower body activation, and I would basically like wipe at it, and it was terrible. And even my friends I'd play with would kind of see it sometimes and be like, dude, how you swing versus how you swing in a tournament were like 2 different people. So I basically played these events knowing I was probably not going to put up a competitive score, but the entire purpose was to swing without fear. And that was actually great for the mental game because it kind of made me not care. I learned actually how to not care, which was really, really nice. And so that's carried into 24 because I think, my tournament plans for 24 are to play the winter tour coming up and fingers crossed this weather holds up and we're not totally screwed, then I should be playing as of February 3rd is the next event. And so that's also why we have the podcast going, is I'm going to be able to give you guys like better real-time feedback on my mindset going into tournaments, what I'm working on, because I get a lot of tournament questions. And so there's that. And then current state versus the goal. I'm actually pretty pumped with the current state right now. Like I've been playing these, this kind of -6 12-hole challenge every day. I think I've got like 4 or 5 of them filmed, and very, very happy with the consistency. Like obviously there's still some errors and some issues, but it's way cleaner and way less like there's way less crap going on with my game than there was. And I think that's what excites me is that just the technique and the cleanup is so much better. So I would say I'm probably hovering after filming these 5. I'm probably hovering around a +2 relative to my +6 goal, just on this format. I got it again. The whole point of doing this challenge is to nail it here, and then I want to bring it to another full length course and do the same challenge. And so I keep kind of elevating to different spots to kind of organically progress. But yeah.
And this isn't a viewer question, but you touched on something there. How do you find playing Cultists versus a full-length course? Do you find that gives you advantages or disadvantages? Like knowing that course has an abundance of par 3s and isn't the longest, how do you find that translates when you get to a full course?
At first, I didn't know how to use the course to make it translate. And so I had to find a way to utilize the course. And I think that's actually why I'm excited about this challenge that I've set up, is that I kind of treat it like a mini, like it's teaching me all the different shots I need for a bigger course. So for example, the third hole is a long par 3 that I have to hit this pretty much big high cut into the green, right? I look at that as like an approach on either a long par 4, second shot in on a long par 4, and or that's my second shot on a par 5, right? So I'm learning how to hit that shot. My issue has always been approach and putting. If you look at my stats, whenever I was doing Arcos and stuff, so I just know I needed to constantly hone that in. Same with hole 9. Hole 9 is a short par 4 that I can basically hit with a 4-iron, and I look at that like I'm trying to get on in 1, which would be, if that was a par 5, I'd be getting on in 2 with a long iron. So I'm learning how to hit those shots. But then also too, there are 2 really short par 4s that are, on some days 75 yards and 95 yards. Sorry, par 3s, 2 short par 3s. And working on the wedge game, because I'm also going to have a lot of those shots with driver, right? Driver's never been my Achilles heel. So I need more reps on all the other shots, the short game, the putts, and especially the long irons. And so that's where I find it's much more impactful. And I love executive courses. I never would play them before, like being out here. And I have a much bigger appreciation for executive courses and the value they can bring to your game now after doing this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, keeping on the tournament talk, White Whale has a question about your tournaments, asking, talk about the tournaments you play in or plan to play in. How do these differ and how do you prepare for them? Does your strategy change from what we see on your course blogs?
So the tournaments I play in, and this is, one thing I struggled with tournaments, and another guy messaged me too and said, when are you going to post some tournament results? I think the issue I've always had with tournaments is that because of building this like online presence as I've been going, it's put this like expectation for tournament results. And I found that, in 2021, when I thought I was going to be kind of cruising more into tournaments and I hit some of the walls I did, I think people see my swing and see some of the scores I put up, and then they kind of go like, okay, well, what is this in a tournament? And it's taken me a while to figure out what translates in a tournament setting for me. And that's where I've tailored all of my practice for the last 2 years, because I figured out that the way I was practicing and the swing I was developing was never going to translate. Now, the issue with that too was that I also needed to play some tournaments and absolutely light myself on fire. And I didn't want to have to be judged for it, because I would have guys, I was even playing in some men's nights, and I would have, like I would try and hit some hero shots to win some skins, and it would end up blowing up my score. But I just wanted to see if I was capable of hitting those shots in those scenarios. And, I'd have guys like search them and DM me and be like, oh man, see, I knew you were garbage, or, just be really negative about it. And I'm like, dude, like, you're totally missing the context here. And coming from my music background of, I'm so used to being able to learn in isolation and not have to worry about failing publicly. I would experiment and try, and I failed a lot trying to figure out my music stuff. I think what I don't like about doing some of this social media stuff sometimes is that um, I have to give context constantly for tournaments and scores and things like that. For like a perfect example is like I played one winter tour event in like I think it was 2021 or 2022, and that morning I went and borrowed an arm lock putter and put it in play, having never practiced with it. That is dumb to post a tournament score. But I wanted to just see. I was like, what better way to see if an arm lock works? Let's just light it on fire right now and just see what happens. And I also practiced with it and I tried to see, and it didn't work. And I shot a bunch over, and I was not competitive in that event, despite the fact that I actually struck it pretty good. But the purpose of trying in these environments is to get a data set and to understand where I suck. And I've been able to do that. And so that's why I don't really talk about tournaments. Is more just one, I haven't gone into any tournaments with any expectations that I was going to like crush it. But I wanted to take the time to just figure out and try things and not have to justify what I was doing or whatever. I think what excites me now, and that's why you and I have set up this podcast, is to kind of give a deeper insight as to, the mindset going into these tournaments and how I'm preparing for them and what I'm looking forward to. And I think this year, the difference is that with the game I'm developing and the game I have developed and all the reps I've put in specifically over the past 2 years, I feel like this will translate the most now from casual to tournament golf versus everything I've done previously. And when it comes to prep, the goal is actually to not be different than my course vlogs versus tournaments. And I think in the beginning of my journey, it's not that actually I had a different strategy in course vlogs. Actually, well, you know what? There is a little bit of different strategy in course vlogs, because if you blow up in a course vlog, you can at least make it comedic and it becomes good entertainment for people. If you make a quad, you can make it entertaining because you're like, everyone can relate to having a blow up quad. In a tournament, you don't feel that same level of like, oh, I can just get away with it. But I think now and this is why I'm doing this -6 challenge, is to bridge that gap where the preparation and the reality are much closer together.
Your autoflex videos are a perfect example of like a course vlog that doesn't translate to tournament play.
Yes.
So
yeah, like that swing. That swing, I was flipping it around, and I just got very lucky. I just hit a hot streak. But I think the other thing too, and this is the difference, is that for me, what I realized, and this is what's also helped with the mental game, and this is why tournaments, like I struggled a lot early in tournaments, was that I didn't actually know what I was doing. I was just playing freely. But then in a tournament, when you have to hit a certain shot, you start to think like, how do I hit the shot? I don't actually know. So I've spent the last couple years learning how to know what I'm doing. When I step over a putt now, and I saw this with some of the events I played in the spring, actually. And the first day I didn't play great. Second day I battled back and I shot, I think 2 or 3 over, versus I think the first day I was like 11 over. And because I was just trying stuff, I went to the range after and like was just trying to sort out with the swing, because I noticed this is when I was kind of saying, the swing wasn't translating. But the one thing I did notice is that my putting was great. Like my putting routine, I know what I'm doing with putting. And I think that's come through in the course vlogs now, and that's come through. And so once you build a process and it's just a totally different feeling mentally. And so I've been building that into every piece of my game. And my hope is that by knowing, then it just becomes execution under the gun. And that's what I had in music. I just didn't realize, I guess the artist inside me thought I could be a little more freewheely with golf than I actually have to be. And so that's been a big adjustment. But hopefully that answers the question.
I think so. I mean, and as you say, like I think that progression of that mental game has been something you and I have talked about before, and it's
Totally.
been an area you've really worked hard on. I know just in our talking, not on the pod, just together, how much time and effort you've put into that. So it'll be good to see how 2024 goes.
Yeah, like I feel like a different person entirely. I think I'm a completely different human from 2020 to now. And so I'm actually really looking forward to playing tournaments because I actually just don't care anymore. And what's also interesting is that my concept of score during the round has changed drastically. And this is what's really cool. Um, I don't actually remember while I play what my score is anymore. Like I'm not actually as aware of it. I just kind of like play through the holes. There have been a couple times, especially filming these vlogs, where like I didn't know exactly where I was until after I finished filming the video.
Nice.
And I thought that was really interesting. So that mental flip really excites me, and I'm really looking forward to diving deeper into that.
Well, next question, actually, we've got a few people asking for it.
Yes.
And the question is, are you entering Q School?
I'm entering Q School. No. Q School is for people who are much further along the path than I am. I have a lot of work to do, and I think, I have to do stuff on a local level first before I even entertain that thought. So, while that would be really cool to get there someday, I think the focus is, playing and competing and having success locally first, and then moving up the ladder accordingly as we see what's possible.
Now, I know in previous years you've entered Canadian Open qualifying. Is that on the schedule for 2024? Do you think you'll do something like that again?
Yeah,
or are you
I'll
gonna
probably
stick to
I'll
mostly
probably do it.
BC?
It's a fun one, and it's a good tournament. And you know what I like about it too? You get, because it's not it's an open qualifying, so they don't like have the flights and a lot of pros enter. And so what I like about doing open qualifying is that you kind of get to see what everyone in the area shoots on the same day, going for the same prize, with no handicapping or anything. And so I've really liked that, to kind of just get a sense of how, even getting to see how different guys attack the qualifier, knowing the conditions. Like one of the years I played it, and it was quite wet and quite crappy. And, one thing is true is just like the good guys just always find a way to make it through. No matter what the conditions are, no matter what obstacles they've got against them, they just always find a way to make it happen. And that's something I've worked on a ton, and learned a lot from. So we'll see. We'll see.
It's a good yardstick to judge your game against your others. Next question we have, Gabe, is from Sam. Sam would like to hear about anything you work on regarding the mental game and course management. Indicating here, not sure if Sam is a guy or a girl, but the comment is that they find it's easy to play well in casual rounds, but it's hard when it comes to competition.
You know what? And I think this goes back to what I was saying about knowing versus, I think the fear, right? I think when, one of the things with the mental game, and I'm convinced of this, is just a lack of reps, right? Like if you don't know what you're doing and you're just kind of winging it round to round, then 100% you're going to have fear, because you're just hoping that the better golfer within you appears. And when they don't, you're going to be scared and freaked out, right? Because you don't actually know what you're doing. And so I think the thing that's helped me the most with my mental game is just more reps, getting more comfortable hitting different shots, and knowing what I'm doing technique-wise, so that if I do feel like I veer off the rails, it's never too far that I can't bring myself back to center. So yeah, that's the big one.
Do you think, is there anything you've learned over the past 3 years playing tournament golf that like mentally you can relate to the viewers, or say has really been helpful for you in terms of like has there been any shifts that you've made in terms of your approach on or off the course that have made a big difference?
Well, step 4 that we talked about last week in the off-season plan is just like cleaning up your life, right? So I think off the course, getting rid of things that are getting in the way of you thinking clearly, whether it be something as simple as, you know, your nutrition, sleep, physical fitness, all of that, to more complex issues like, you know, nagging things going on in certain relationships in your life or family issues or whatever, you know, work issues, all of those things, right? I think the combination of all those can then become very toxic to try and be pure on the golf course. So if you can try and fix those things, and then you can approach golf with an open mind and an open heart to accept whatever the challenge is. And I would say that has been a big aha moment for me is I always found too, whenever, you know, I'd play certain tournaments, I'd have these things, realize I wasn't where I wanted to be. And I was like, okay, I got to go clean up this other stuff because clearly I've got this other stuff in the back of my head that's nagging me and it's getting in the way of me thinking clearly. And so then I'd go and I'd deal with all that. And then I'd come back and be like, okay, I'm a little fresher. Now let's try it. And I've just consistently done that every single time. And the more I work at that, that has allowed me to be the most mentally free possible going into the golf world.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Our next question is from iZap. They would like to know can you share anything from your workouts that's helped with your turn, loading, strength, and stability?
So the turn, loading, strength, and stability. I would say hips are so vital. Hips are so important to what's going on. And I spend an absurd amount of time working on hips for this reason, because it's you're sitting. You're like so much of your life is spent sitting now, right? And sitting is just the murder, like the assassin of the golf swing is sitting. So I do a lot of good mornings, which is a type of movement. I do a lot of Cossack squats, which is like the side to side squats. I do a ton of lunges. And then I do a lot of standing hip raises, or standing leg raises. So you stand, you bring your knees to your chest, or you bring your whole leg up. I also do hanging leg raises. There's this thing too where you sit and you put like a kettlebell on each side of your foot and you lift your leg over the kettlebell back and forth. And so you work on your hips that way. I just basically hit hips 3 times a week is my minimum. Like I'm hitting legs 3 days a week. And I'm making sure I'm going through that hip routine every single time because I need to get ahead of all those years of sitting.
And how much of those when you do the quote unquote leg day, how much of it are you using body weight versus actually using weights in the gym?
So I start my workouts on Sundays. So Sundays is a HIIT workout that is mainly lower body, but has some upper body, but that's mainly jumping and, you know, I'll do jump squats, jump lunges, all of those things, right? So that's getting the power, but I still get a lot of hip mobility and power in my turn through doing that. Then Tuesday would be the next leg day. And that one is going to be mainly body weight. And that one's going to be like going through the entire hip routine that I just mentioned of doing the good mornings, doing all the different squats. And that's basically body weight. And I'm trying to get strong through a full range of motion, kind of like the knees over toes guy, ATG system. So I'm doing that. Then Thursday would be a more full body workout again, but I will incorporate some weights. And that's when I do the kettlebell circuits. And so that'll be more core plus legs and hips. And then there'll be some upper body stuff as a function of the kettlebell movements. And then I fill in the other 2 days with upper body back stuff.
So our next question comes from Tim, and I know you've just been jonesing to answer this one.
My boy Tim, we are here to answer this question for you.
All right. The question is about eye dominance. And Tim wants to know, have you experimented with eye dominance when putting? And then also, do you think it has any effect on the full swing?
So eye dominance. Okay. Definitely have been down the rabbit hole on this. I am right eye dominant, but I play my best golf left eye dominant. And I think I still have to ask people about this as to why. Tiger plays left eye dominant, so that's always a good sign. I found,
for the listener, sorry,
Yeah.
just we may for the listener, what does playing golf left eye dominant mean? I'm not sure if everyone is familiar
right.
with
So again, I'm not a coach, so my definition of it may not be what maybe a coach would say it is or isn't. Okay. The way I look at eye dominance is that when you're over the ball, I always have picked one eye to slightly tilt my head and make that the dominant eye to look at the ball as I hit it. Right? So if it's my right eye, then my head is slightly tilted so that my right eye is leading the way. And if it's my left eye is slightly tilted so that my left eye is leading the way. I have found that with putting, I've done well both ways. Although I do find I will pull putts if I get too right eye focused. And so what I have learned to do is I had a bad habit of always wanting to watch my putts early. And I actually, watching Justin Thomas practice putt on the practice green at the Canadian Open, it was very interesting. He kept his head down for a long time post-impact. And so I've learned now to use my left eye, make sure I am lined up. I can still see the line. I'm set up over the ball. I'm set up at impact. My head is slightly tilted so that my left eye is leading the way. And then I hit my stroke and I try not to look up within like a second or two of impact. Now, obviously, sometimes you want to chase the putt and look at it. What I was finding was that when I was right eye dominant, it actually changed the alignment of my shoulders, because I noticed when I set up, I have a way of setting up where I know I'm square. And I found when I was right eye dominant, it was pulling my shoulders just a touch open, which was then having me pull putts. Yeah. When I go to left eye dominant, my shoulders are very square and I hit my start lines much better. And so I just had to learn. I don't see the line as well in terms of seeing down the line as well when it's left eye dominant, but I have to just trust my alignment. And then once I was able to do that, the putts are rolling in, putts are fine. What are you? Left eye or right eye?
I think I would be naturally right eye dominant, but it's funny you talk about the shoulder position, because Rich over at Genuine was the one that actually helped me. So I have the tendency on my full swing to set up very open with my right shoulder kind of closer to the hole, my left shoulder open, and I get that weak kind of, swipey shot that fades. And I was struggling to hit a draw last year. And Rich was actually the one that pointed out, and we used kind of basically eye dominance, or like where I was focusing down the hole, to help kind of square up my shoulders and keep my right shoulder back. And it was basically just looking looking at the hole and looking at my target line with my left eye, we found just kept everything straighter. So
interesting. So yeah, so there you go. But do you know if you're right eye or left eye dominant naturally?
I don't, but I have the feeling I'd probably be right eye dominant.
Like I think how to tell if you're dominant. It's like there's a thing you can do with your hands. You create like a triangle with your hands, and there's a way to do it that way. My way of thinking is like if I was to shoot a gun, like a sniper, I'm closing my left eye and I'm using my right eye down the scope, right?
Yeah.
But for golf, for some reason, like when it comes to the full swing, similar to what you were saying there too, what I noticed was actually when I was right eye dominant, it would affect my takeaway too much. I would actually shorten my backswing a little bit, and then I would fire through like my sink would be off, and I would fire through, and I'd have a lot of left misses, and I would actually like either pull it or complete like double cross left, and I'm trying to always hit a fade. What I found going left eye dominant with the swing is, one, my head looks more natural at setup over the ball. So I don't like it. It looked a little funny at setup when it was right eye dominant. And then my backswing and my ability to turn got way better because I felt like I had all this more space because I didn't have to keep my right eye like over the ball this way, I could kind of tilt my head this way and have all this room to turn and then squat through. And then I actually hold my head there and try and keep it there through impact and then look up. Because I also had a bad tendency too of like lifting my head too early. And that was also causing me some issues. So I found to hit my kind of stock repeatable fade, left eye dominance is the move. But I've tried every variation. I've even tried seeing if I could center my head and use both eyes. And that didn't work out that great.
That didn't work.
No. I've tried every variation, every head angle possible. This just seems to be the play. So anyway, brother Tim, hopefully that answers the question for you, sir.
Tim, it would be interesting if you have any experience with it to write in with your comments. This seems to be, eye dominance seems to be one of those subjects that is talked about a lot in golf, but not a lot of people fully understand, and there's a ton of different theories about it. So Tim and any of the listeners, I think we'd love to hear if you have any experience with it. Please write it down in the comments, and we'd like to hear your experiences on trying eye dominance when putting and with the full swing.
Yeah, it's but you know what though? I love this minutia stuff. Like this stuff is like, because it makes a big difference. You know, simple things like that, like how you look at the ball, and setup is so important. Like how you set up over the ball and you know, when you're starting out, you don't realize how valuable the setup is. You just kind of, because with other sports, like, you know, when you play hockey or maybe baseball, when you set up in the batter's box, that might be one of the few similar sports where there's like a process. But, you know, when I took a slap shot in hockey, I was just like, let's get this off. Like, let's just rip. You know, you're reacting more than setting up. Maybe free throws in basketball would be similar. So it's just so interesting. Anyway, welcome to the world of the minutia. My favorite.
This is deep into Gabe's brain.
Yep. Hit me with the next one, brother Dave.
Our next question is from Scott. Scott would like to know, what is your favorite Lower Mainland golf membership, pricing, and practice course?
Well, I love first of all, this is why I started doing my winters here in Lower Mainland, because I love the prices of golf out here versus Ontario. Ontario golf prices are horrific. My membership at Cultus this year was just over $1,400. It's an executive course, but that gets you unlimited rounds of golf and 1 bucket of range balls a day. And I did the math because I'm a lunatic and I play golf a ton. I basically play golf for $4 a day, which is absolutely unreal. And then obviously, you know, there's other costs like balls and, you know, gas to the course, and, you know, I'll play rounds at other places. But specifically, I like out here, I feel like memberships are so much more competitively priced. And there's also a lot more executive courses out here than there is in Ontario. And there's less population. Like, that's the beauty of kind of living out here too, is the population is much lower. So there's less competition for tee times and for space. But I'm out in like Chilliwack area. So I'm out in a little more, is that still Lower Mainland, or is that like the boonies?
I don't want to upset any of our listeners, so I will refrain from commenting on that. Okay,
because you're a city boy. You played at UBC. Dave plays golf in cooler places. But you know, like you Meadow Gardens, you've played there.
Yep.
They've got a pretty competitive pricing for their membership. I'd love to have joined Ledgeview. That's like, I think they're like $3,500 a year or something, like not that bad, but just the pedigree of that course and the players that come out of it, that'd be a good place to practice. So, you know, I pay to play there, but I would have loved to have gotten a membership there. That would have been unreal.
Is there a wait list there to play?
Yeah, there is. Pre-COVID golf boom, there was a lot more opportunities for some of these places. Now, post-COVID, people are they're making so much money, right? So a lot of places don't have to also offer memberships anymore. Like, I think Northview out in Surrey, that's an Arnold Palmer course. They've got 2 18s there. I remember in 2019 looking it up in my studio in Toronto, and they had like a was like a couple grand for like their version of a membership. And they totally scrapped it once COVID hit because they were just getting full pop crazy rounds and they were super busy. But I'm a big fan of these like executive course memberships because I think you can get a lot of mileage out of an executive course for practice.
If you took pricing out of it, and let's just say in the Lower Mainland, what is your favorite course that you've played? If you had to pick one, can you pick one? Or
Yeah, I'd probably, if I didn't have to worry about price, I'd go play Northview every day. Like they held the Air Canada Open there. It was a PJ Tour event back in the 90s and I think early 2000s they had. It's like a tour level course, and they've got 218s. They've got a full range, huge putting green. Like practice facilities are amazing. If I could play there every day in practice, like that's where I would go, because it's set up to, and the conditions are great. Like it drains well in the winter too. It's just expensive. Like I think it's like $80 a round in the wintertime, right?
Yeah.
So it's not ideal.
You and I need to go over to Vancouver Island. There's some great courses. I don't think you've played much over there.
No, I haven't. I haven't really ventured out. Like that's the other thing too. I haven't really seen, like I haven't even been to like Tobiano or any of those. Like I haven't done Sagebrush yet. There's all these wicked courses or any of the Whistler courses. Like you've been to all. You're much more seasoned in terms of like the other courses, and you probably have a better commentary. But I haven't really ventured out because I've been so focused on practice. So my hope for this year is to venture out more. But what's your favorite Lower Mainland course?
Lower Mainland, it probably is UBC, just because I've played it so much. But I also find playing, University Golf Club, I hit every club in my bag.
Yeah,
and for me, that's always a judge. That's always how I judge a good course. If I have to hit everything, I'm never really a fan of like the driver wedge, driver 7-iron, driver 8-iron courses. I like some variety. On Vancouver Island, Olympic View is a great course just outside of Victoria.
I've seen that online. Isn't it like Tiger played there one time? That's their.
I think it is
their claim to fame. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. That's a good, like, I got to get over to the island and play more. Like I've done a bad job on the tourist side of golf. And
we'll fix that in 2024.
UBC is Stanley Thompson design?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like a legacy. It's like a legacy property too. That's a cool course. What is it? When we played there, was it the fourth hole, that par 5?
Yes, the par 5 into the chute.
Oh man, that is a tight par 5. What's that? 50 yards wide at most, the whole way.
I think so.
With a creek. Was it? Well,
there's no
creek on the right, and then the forest
on the right.
left.
OB left. Yeah.
And it's a white stake left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah.
So.
No, that's good. That's a good course. I like that.
Our next question comes from Shredder, 1983. Shredder comes from us from Ireland. Oh. So a fan from across the pond.
Let's go. Let's go.
Shredder. Shredder would like to know, do you record your stats? We talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And he says, how do you plan out your range sessions?
So I stopped recording my stats with Arcos because honestly, Arcos got a bit expensive every year. Like, I think it got up to over $200 Canadian for the year for Arcos. Like, I was kind of like, okay, this is insane. And also too, it just kept being the same things over and over indexing on driver, and you need to work on your approach play, and you need to work on your putting. And so there's only so many times you can get that hitting you in the face that you go, got it. This is what it is. So I just kind of took that and just dove headfirst into fixing that. The other thing I didn't like, in between, as I was trying to sort out the mental game, I was getting annoyed constantly having to be on my phone to like track stats and film and do this. And I just wanted to play. And so I kind of like got rid of using my phone for anything for a while. Now it's been nice kind of filming again, but I may move to Mark Brody's got an app for stat tracking, and there's also the Decade app. And I joined Decade for a bit and kind of learned that whole system. I may jump back into that because they've got a good portal and good data. So one of those two apps is probably what I'll use this year to get a better sense now that I've upped my skills and I feel like I'll actually have a more accurate data set to work with.
Nice.
Yeah. You don't track any
Well,
stats, do you?
I just use down here we have the USGA app, the GIN app.
Okay.
So I just track fairways hit, greens hit, putts per round.
Right.
For me, it's pretty easy. If I'm going to shoot, if I have a good round, my putts per round is 30 or less.
Right.
An average round for me is 32 putts a round, and then if it gets to 34 or 35, we're having a bad day.
Then it's time to ship it out and buy a new one.
It's time to go to the Scotty Cameron Gallery.
Love it. And the other thing you said was, do I plan out my range sessions?
Yes, which leads us actually to Dan's question too. So I think we can combine these because Dan's question is you have 1 hour range time. What are you doing?
So my range sessions are planned-ish. So it depends on what I'm working on, right? Like when I was doing my 200 half swings, I would just go to the range and work on a specific movement. I tend to stick to, short irons and long irons and kind of start my session with the short irons to get warmed up. And then I like to work a lot with a 4-iron or a 5-iron. And I'm working on the same swing movement basically every time. It's getting super wide and making sure I get a full turn, making sure I'm staying tall, and then squatting in transition, and then firing that left leg, going through and hitting a fade. And I'm basically doing that all day, rinse and repeat. So my range sessions are planned. I don't have like a ball count or how many different balls I'm trying to hit or anything like that. But I'm trying to hit these positions over and over and over and over and over and over, and make sure that every day I'm seeing incremental gains in those positions. And so I film pretty much 80% of my range session. And I'm cataloging like good shots as I go so that I have a marker. And then another thing I do is I make myself tutorials. So for example, today I had a really good feel that I came across with my left leg in the backswing. And so what I'll do is I'll make a video once I've nailed it and I'm really solid in it. I'll make a video of that and saying, okay, this is what you're feeling. This is how your setup is. This is what the swing is doing. Go there. And I have like an album in my phone that's like GG self tutorials. And it's just all these kind of self tutorials I've made. And then I have a hard drive with basically every range session from the last 3 years on it. And so I can go back and kind of track progress. And that's how I measure if I'm implementing the move correctly. So like Ryan Hawley, I always mention him. The guy's an absolute genius. Like the left leg firing movement I've been working on for just over a year now. And so it's basically the rinse and repeat every single time I go to the range. And then anything I'm working on with my coach, Max and I are constantly just trying to morph me into more consistency, better positions, and he helps me fine tune, when I start to get off the rails or I start to, things typically would wander in my setup, or I'll unlock new mobility or new strength. And so we have to just kind of make sure we keep everything on the rails. But that's how I plan a session. And then if I've got 1 hour, then I'm going to basically warm up with some wedges, get loose. I stretch, get the body moving. And then I'm trying to get to 8 irons as quick as possible so that I can start getting work in. Right. And that's what I want to get to. I want to be able to get to full swings, get 8 irons going. And then I try and work the 8 irons as much as I can. Once I get to a point where I'm like hitting the 8 irons like money and I feel really good and like I'm all synced up, that's when I move to 4 irons. And I will then pretty much finish the entire session with 4 irons and maybe hit a couple drivers at the end. Now, I don't hit as many drivers because I just, driver's not my problem. So I seem to be able to keep up with my driver. And so I'll hit maybe 5 to 8 drivers in a session at most. And the only time I veer off is if I'm trying to work on something, or I'm trying to now see how it translates with the driver, what I've been working on. But I'm a big believer, like, if you can get your 4-iron cooking, if you can build that confidence with your 4-iron, it just makes everything else so much easier. Like, I've invested an absurd amount of time hitting 4-irons the last 2 years, because I just think if you can hit a 4-iron high and far with good impact and good control, a 9-iron feels way less scary. Like, it makes everything else feel so much more achievable. So I look forward to hitting my 4-iron on the course because of all the reps I've put in with it. And so I try and get to the long irons as quick as possible. And then that's what I'm doing for my hour. And I'm filming it, and I'm going through my process and making sure I'm hitting all my positions. And then I'm getting out of there and going home and looking over the footage. And yeah, that's a good 1-hour range session. What about you? What do you do?
Nice.
What's your process for like, if you have 1 hour, because this happens to you quite a bit. You're like trying to fit an hour in amongst your schedule, and like, what's your go-to?
Well, I find for me, like, my most productive range sessions are when I just, it's not a lot of balls. It's a small number of balls and just quality strikes. Like, even on Saturday, I think I just grabbed a 40 bucket and, stretched, got loose, hit about 10 wedges, gap wedges, sand wedges, right, just to get the feel.
Right.
And then hit a couple of pitching wedges, went right into 8-irons, similar to you. And then it was just, each swing, take a step back. I probably take 30 seconds between shots, set up like I'm going to hit it on the course.
Right.
And then I find just work on one thing, whatever it is I'm going to work on that day, that's the thing. I don't want too much in my head. So for me on Saturday, it was takeaway. It's making sure that I don't fan the club open on the backswing. I can get a little bit handsy and, fan it open on the backswing, and then I lose a lot of power and get a weak shot. So just keeping the club face square, back, kind of to that, what would it be, 9 o'clock position, just making sure that position is right, and then finishing the swing and then coming down and hitting the shot.
Nice. Yeah, very solid. Keep it simple. And I think don't hit, and you don't hit, so you're not ripping drivers either.
No.
And I think that's the difference between, as you morph into a better player, you hit way less drivers in your range sessions. Yeah. When I was terrible and figuring out golf, I would try and get to driver as quick as possible. And now I rarely hit my driver in practice. I just hit it more for maintenance. And same with many other good players I talk to and kind of see. Unless you're working on something specific for driver, you're not hitting driver. Versus like when I see a lot of guys rock up to the range, they're trying to get to driver as quick as possible, and then they're just trying to absolutely hammer it, which I get. You want to get some ROI in your range session. I just don't know if that's going to be ROI positive for your golf game.
I always kind of laugh because, you see the guy on the range maybe 2 or 3 stalls down from you, and I've got my 40 bucket of balls, and he comes after I'm there and grabs the big, 120.
Yeah.
And then he's done before me. He's rifled them off like it's a time trial to how fast he can hit those balls.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point too, is like my range sessions are much slower and less rapid fiery the better I get.
Yeah.
Because and also too, looking at the video, that slows it down a bit too, because I want to make sure I'm doing what I'm doing. But yeah, like I can stretch 40 balls out for a long time,
Yeah.
That's good. That's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's listener Q&A. We should do this again. That was good.
100%. Thank you guys so much for your questions. I really appreciate it. Hopefully I answered everything for you.
Shall we finish on some trivia?
Hit me. I'm ready. You said it was going to be LPGA this week, but
I am going to change it up.
You're going to change it up. Okay.
I'm going to change
That's
it
good,
up.
because I need another week of studying. So this is good.
All right. I ran across a stat that I thought was too good. So we are going to look at 2023 PGA Tour season through the Tour Championship.
Okay.
So calendar year 2023 through the Tour Championship. Shots gained approach from 125 to 150 yards. What I'd like to know is what is the tour average in distance from 125 to 150? And who do you think was number one? And what was their distance?
So sorry, strokes gained approach, and you mean like their expected their
expected distance from the pin. It falls under the shots gained approach category.
Okay.
Sorry, on PGA Tour stat page, but
Right.
we're basically looking at average distance from the pin between 125 and 150 yards. What is the tour average, and who threw the tour championship?
I think
leading?
120 to 150. I'm gonna go with 30 feet. I think, yeah, I'm going to go with 30 feet. Part of me wants to say 40 feet. But I'm going to go 34 feet. Let's do that.
Okay. 34 feet?
Yeah.
And who, and I don't know if you'll guess who number one is, but what do you think the best on tour did?
Best proximity? I'm going to go best proximity is 28 feet.
Okay.
Or maybe 20. We'll go 26. I thought Scotty Scheffler was number one for strokes gained.
So, not according to this. So, through the Tour Championship, the tour average was 23 feet, 5 inches.
Oh, closer than I thought.
And the number one, keep in mind, this is only between 125 and 150. So, if we take a look at all shots gained, that might be Scheffler.
That's fair.
But number one between 125 and 150 was Chris Kirk at 19 feet, 3 inches.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I totally blew that. You know what? I've been watching too many Lou Stagner tweets, and I thought the numbers were a little higher.
There you go.
Interesting. Chris Kirk.
Shout out to Chris Kirk as well.
Winner of the century.
Winner of the century, first tournament of the year. So
his swing tempo is very nice.
Yeah. I was actually really encouraged to see, I don't know if you saw Jordan Spieth finish third. So I would like to see Jordan have a good year.
Yeah, he's entertaining to watch. Do you see Akshay Bhatia do with he was 183rd strokes gained putting last season, and I think it was on Saturday he was first in the tournament strokes gained putting.
I saw that. He fell back a little bit today, but good finish for him nonetheless. So good week for him too.
Yeah, he's got the broomstick. So, is it anchoring?
Uh-oh.
Is it not anchoring? Who knows?
I sense another experiment for
our
guy Gabe.
No. I'm putting too good. No, I couldn't. I feel like that would throw me off after my arm lock experiment. I don't know. Plus, I don't want to buy those putters. They're so expensive, and it's just like, oh my gosh, no thanks. I'm saying that now though. Who knows? Cool. Well,
all right.
That's it. Episode 4 in the books. Thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate it, and we will catch you on the next one.